Hello, family. Please subscribe. Enjoy your story.
I already said I'm sorry. Should I kiss your feet?
Stay with me. I'm here.
I said I'm sorry. Her voice cracked so hard, it didn't even sound human anymore. What else do you want from me? Huh? Should I kneel? Should I kiss your feet? You're not God. Let me ask you something real quick. Have you ever been pushed so far, so tired, so empty, that you just stopped caring what happens next? Because what this woman did next, yeah, it didn't just shock a ruthless millionaire. It nearly cost her life. Welcome back to Alex Romance and Divorce Stories. And if you're new here, you picked the right story today. This one, it's not just about love, it's about pain, survival. And the moment someone decides, they're done. But before we go on, like this video, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe, because stories like this, they hit different, and YouTube only pushes them if you engage. Now, listen carefully, because this story has two moments that will stay with you. The moment she spilled that drink, and the moment she tried to disappear forever, and, somehow, the most feared man in that room became the only reason she survived. Now, let's begin. Adia didn't remember the last time she truly felt present, not just awake, not just moving, but there. Most mornings started the same way, not with energy, not with purpose, just awareness. Her eyes would open slowly, and for a few seconds, just a few, there was silence. Then it came back. Everything. Bills, responsibilities, the quiet weight sitting on her chest. She turned her head slightly, staring at the ceiling, paint chipped in one corner, a faint stain she never got around to cleaning. Yeah, she whispered to herself, barely audible. Another day. Her body didn't move immediately. It rarely did, because getting up meant continuing, and continuing meant feeling everything again. She finally sat up, slow, like her body was heavier than it should be. Her feet touched the floor. Cold. That small sensation, that little shock, was sometimes the only thing that reminded her she was still here. She looked around the room. Nothing special, nothing new, just a space she existed in, not lived in. Her phone was beside her. Screen cracked slightly, notifications she didn't check anymore. I'll deal with it later, she muttered. But she knew she wouldn't, because later had stopped meaning anything. In the next room, her world existed. Two small lives, depending on her. Her 5-year-old, curled up under a blanket that had been washed too many times, and her baby, breathing softly, completely unaware of how fragile everything really was. Adia stood at the doorway, didn't step in, just watched. Her fingers tightened slightly against the wall. "Hey," she whispered, even though they couldn't hear her. There was love there, so much of it, but it was buried under something heavier, responsibility, pressure, fear. Their father was gone, not by choice, not by distance, gone, before the baby even got the chance to know him. And when he left, he didn't just leave silence behind, he left debt, bills that didn't care about grief, numbers that didn't pause for pain. Adia had taken it all on, every single piece, worked longer hours, skipped meals, smiled when she didn't feel like it, sent money back home to her mother, who was doing her best to help raise the kids whenever she could. But even that wasn't enough, because no matter how much Adia gave, life kept taking. She leaned her head lightly against the doorframe, closed her eyes. "I'm trying," she whispered, not to anyone specific, just into the air, as if something out there might hear her. And for a moment, just a small one, her breathing slowed. But the weight didn't lift. Have you ever felt like that? Like you're doing everything right, and it still isn't enough? Be honest. Drop it in the comments. Because stories like this, they're not just stories. They're real for someone. Adia didn't cry anymore. Not because things got better, not because she healed, but because somewhere along the way, her body just stopped responding the way it used to. There was a time, not too long ago, when she would break down in the bathroom at work, quietly, carefully, so nobody would hear. She would press her hand against her mouth, just to keep the sound in, tears falling fast, breathing uneven, heart racing like it was trying to escape her chest. And then she would wash her face, look in the mirror, force something that resembled a smile, and walk back out like nothing happened. But now it was different. The tears didn't come, the breakdown didn't happen. Everything just settled like dust, heavy, still, unmoving. She noticed it first when something small didn't affect her anymore. A customer yelling, a bill increasing, a message she didn't want to read. Things that used to hurt just didn't land the same. Not because they didn't matter, but because she didn't have the strength to react anymore. That scared her. At first, because pain, as difficult as it was, meant she was still fighting. But this quiet, this numbness, it felt like something else, like slowly disappearing. While still being here, she moved through her days automatically. Wake up, get ready, work, send money, sleep, repeat. No variation, no pause, no space to breathe. Even when she sat down, her mind didn't rest. It wandered to things she couldn't fix, to problems she couldn't solve, to a future she couldn't see clearly anymore. Sometimes she would sit in silence, staring at nothing, for longer than she realized, minutes passing, until something snapped her back. "Right," she would whisper. "I have to keep going." But each time she said it, it sounded less convincing, less real. Her body started to feel heavier too, not physically tired, something deeper, like carrying something invisible, that no one else could see, something that didn't go away with sleep, didn't ease with rest, just stayed, constant. She noticed it in small moments. Standing too long felt exhausting. Talking felt like effort. Even thinking sometimes felt like too much. And the worst part? Nobody noticed, because she still showed up, still worked, still spoke when spoken to, still did what she had to do. From the outside, she looked fine, functioning, but inside, there was a quiet question growing, one she didn't say out loud, not at first. What's the point? It didn't come as a breakdown. It came softly, in between thoughts, in moments of stillness, in the silence after everything else faded. And the more it came, the harder it was to ignore, because she didn't have an answer, not one that felt real, not one that felt strong enough to hold her together. And, slowly, without realizing it, that question stopped being a thought and started becoming a feeling, a heavy one that followed her everywhere. One that sat quietly in her chest and didn't leave. She exhaled slowly one evening, sitting alone after putting the kids to sleep, her hands resting on her lap, her eyes unfocused. "I'm tired," she whispered, not just physically, not just mentally, but deeply, the kind of tired that doesn't go away, the kind that settles into your bones and stays. John Virelli did not enter rooms. He shifted them. It wasn't loud. There was no announcement, no need for one. But somehow, every single person felt it. The moment he stepped into the restaurant, something changed. Not dramatically. Not in a way you could point at and explain. Just subtly. The kind of shift that made people straighten their backs without realizing it. Lower their voices. Move a little faster. Think a little harder about their next action. Even the music. Soft jazz playing through hidden speakers felt quieter, as if it knew Tian walked in like he belonged everywhere he stepped. Not arrogant, not flashy, controlled, every movement measured, every step deliberate. His presence didn't demand attention. It took it. His suit, perfectly fitted, dark, clean, not a single wrinkle, not a single mistake. Much like the man himself, his face was calm, sharp features, eyes that didn't wander. They observed, calculated, and dismissed, because most things, most people, didn't interest him enough to hold his attention for long. He didn't smile when he entered, didn't greet anyone. He didn't need to. Respect followed him automatically. Or maybe it wasn't respect. Maybe it was fear. The kind that doesn't speak, just exists. A staff member near the entrance swallowed slightly, stepped forward. "Good evening, sir." Tian gave a small nod, barely noticeable. No words, because words, to him, were unnecessary most of the time. He walked toward his usual table. No hesitation, no checking, because it was always ready, always reserved, always untouched. Not by policy, but by understanding. Nobody sat there. Nobody dared to, because everyone knew that space belonged to him, and not in a casual way, in a way that felt absolute. He sat down slowly, adjusted his cuff slightly, a small movement, precise, then rested his hand on the table, still waiting, not impatient, just certain that things would happen when they were supposed to, because in his world, they always did. A waiter approached carefully, not too fast, not too slow, balanced. "Would you like your usual, sir?" A pause. Tian looked up, not at the menu, at the waiter, just long enough to make him uncomfortable. Then, a slight nod, nothing more, and that was enough. The waiter stepped back quickly, not rushing, but clearly relieved. Tian's gaze shifted slightly, scanning the room, not searching, just taking everything in, people laughing, talking, living. None of it touched him, not because he couldn't feel, but because he chose not to. Feelings made people careless, attached, weak, and Sean Virelli had spent years removing anything that could make him that. He leaned back slightly in his chair, calm, collected, untouchable. And yet, if someone looked closely, really closely, there was something else there, something quieter, not softness, no, but distance, a kind of emptiness that didn't ask to be filled, just accepted its place. Tian didn't always think this way. There was a time, long before power settled into his life, when he believed people meant what they said, when smiles were real, when intentions were simple. But that version of him didn't last. Experience changed that, slowly. Then all at once, he learned early that people didn't approach him for nothing. There was always a reason, always a motive. Sometimes it was obvious. Business, opportunity, connections. Other times, it was quieter, hidden behind compliments, behind kindness, behind interest, especially from women. At first, he didn't notice the pattern. Conversations flowed easily. Laughter came naturally. But over time, something started to repeat. Questions, not about him, about his life, his work, his position, what he could offer, what he could provide. It wasn't direct, never obvious, but it was there, consistent, predictable, and once he saw it, he couldn't unsee it. He remembered one moment clearly, a woman sitting across from him, smiling, laughing at something he barely considered funny, her hand resting lightly near his, her voice soft, careful. "You're different," she had said. He didn't respond immediately, just watched her, waited. Then came the question, "What do you usually look for in someone?" It sounded innocent, but he had already learned what followed. Expectations, needs, requests. Not immediately, but eventually, it always came, and that was the moment something shifted in him. Not anger, not disappointment, just clarity. From that point on, he stopped engaging the same way, stopped investing, stopped assuming. He started observing instead, watching patterns. listening differently. And the conclusion he reached? Simple. Everyone wants something. Money, security, access, something, no exceptions. That belief became part of him, not loudly, not aggressively, just firmly, and once it settled, it didn't move. So when he looked at people now, he didn't see them first, he saw intention. And when it came to women, he was even more certain, not because he hated them, no, but because he had seen enough to stop believing otherwise. Interest wasn't just interest, it came with expectations, and he refused to be part of that again. So he created distance, clear, unbreakable, no emotional access, no unnecessary conversation, no space for misunderstanding. If someone approached him, he already knew. There was a reason, and he would decide whether it mattered or not. He leaned slightly forward now, his drink placed carefully in front of him. The waiter stepped back immediately. Tion didn't touch it yet, just looked at it. Then his gaze shifted again. Across the room, waiters moving, customers talking, everything normal, everything predictable. And then his eyes paused, just briefly, on someone passing behind him, a waitress moving quietly, focused. He didn't know her, didn't recognize her, and for a second, just a second, there was no immediate read, no assumption, no clear motive, just movement. Then he looked away, because, in his world, nothing unexpected lasted long. Well, at least, that's what he believed. The shift didn't stop when Tian arrived. It just changed. The same trays moved, the same orders were called, the same plates left the kitchen, but underneath all of it, there was tension, quiet, sharp, the kind that didn't need to be spoken. Adia felt it before she understood it, not because she was paying attention, but because the energy in the room shifted around her. A waiter brushed past her quickly, too quickly. Careful, he muttered under his breath, not even looking at her. Another staff member adjusted her uniform for the third time in less than a minute. Someone in the kitchen called out an order, then corrected themselves immediately. No, wait. Table 12 first, a voice said, slightly strained. Table 12. Adia didn't need to ask who that was. She already knew, even without looking, because everything in the room seemed to orbit around that one point, that one table, that one man. She finally glanced over, not directly, just enough to see Chon Virelli sitting still, calm, unbothered, while everything else around him adjusted. He doesn't even do anything, she murmured quietly. The waitress beside her froze slightly. Don't say that out loud, she whispered quickly. Adia blinked. Why? The other woman hesitated, looked around, lowered her voice even more. Because people who say things like that end up regretting it. Adia frowned slightly. For what? Thinking. No answer came, just silence. And that told her enough. She shifted her weight slightly, picked up her tray again. The work didn't stop. It couldn't. Bills didn't pause for tension. Life didn't slow down because someone powerful walked into a room. She moved forward. But the difference now, every step felt watched, not just by him, by everyone, because when someone like Tian was present, mistakes weren't just mistakes, they were risks, and everyone knew it. A glass clinked too loudly somewhere. A customer laughed, then quickly lowered their voice. Even the manager, who usually walked around confidently, was now staying near the back, watching, waiting, like he was hoping nothing would go wrong, because if something did, he wouldn't be the one to fix it. Nobody would. Adia noticed all of it, but none of it settled into fear, not the way it did for others, because fear required something she didn't have anymore: concern, care, and, right now, she had neither. She adjusted the tray in her hands, balanced it, her fingers steady, her expression neutral. Table 8. Someone called. She nodded slightly, moved forward. Just another task, just another step toward the end of her shift, toward the end of everything. The tension in the room tightened again, not because something had happened, but because something could, and everyone felt it. Everyone except her. There were two different worlds inside that same restaurant. They existed in the same space, but they didn't touch. Not yet. On one side, Sean Virelli, still seated, still composed, his drink untouched for a moment longer than necessary. His gaze steady. Nothing about him suggested urgency. Nothing about him suggested struggle, because in his world, everything was handled, controlled, predictable. If something went wrong, it was corrected immediately. If something didn't meet his standard, it was replaced. Simple, clean. His life didn't bend, it adjusted others instead. And across the room, moving between tables, was Adia. Same space, different reality. Her steps were steady, but not effortless. Her shoulders carried something invisible, something heavy. Each movement had weight behind it, not visible to others, but real. She wasn't thinking about presentation or perfection. She was thinking about finishing, getting through one more table, one more order, one more hour. While he sat in stillness, she moved in survival. While his world responded to him, she responded to everything else. He didn't rush. She didn't have the luxury not to. And the distance between them? It wasn't just physical. It was everything. Power, control, emotional state. He had removed himself from feeling she was drowning in it, even in silence. At one point, their paths almost crossed. She passed near his table, not close enough to interact, but close enough to feel something shift, not from him, from the space around him. She didn't stop, didn't look directly, but her body registered it, that presence, that stillness, that control, and for a brief second, something inside her reacted, not fear, not respect, just awareness. Then it passed, because she had something heavier waiting for her. Her own thoughts, her own ending. Meanwhile, Tion's gaze shifted again, and for a brief moment, he noticed her, not clearly, not fully, just a passing observation. A waitress, moving differently from the others, not slower, not careless, just detached. He didn't analyze it deeply, didn't need to, because in his world, people fit patterns, and whatever she was, he assumed it would reveal itself. It always did. He looked away, but something, small, unnoticed, stayed, a fraction of attention, a moment that didn't fully pass. Well, neither of them knew it yet. But that small moment, that quiet crossing, was the beginning of something neither of them expected, because very soon, their worlds wouldn't just exist in the same space anymore. They would collide. The moment didn't feel important. Until it was. Adia picked up the tray without thinking. 2 glasses, 1 plate, balanced the way she had done hundreds of times before. Her fingers adjusted slightly underneath. Muscle memory. Table 8, someone had said earlier. She nodded then. Moved now. Step, step, step. Each movement steady, practiced. But her mind? Still somewhere else. Just finish, she murmured under her breath. Just get through it. Her eyes weren't fully focused. Not unfocused enough to be careless, but not present enough to be sharp. That thin space in between, where mistakes happen. She turned, slightly, navigating between tables. A couple stood up suddenly from a nearby seat. Chairs shifting, voices overlapping. She adjusted her path. That's when it happened. She moved behind him. Tion, close, closer than before. The air around his table felt still, like stepping into a different space without realizing it. Her grip tightened, just a little. Too late. Her wrist shifted. A small movement, barely noticeable. But enough. The glass tilted. Time slowed. Not literally, but in the way moments stretch. When something is about to go wrong, The liquid moved first, sliding over the rim, catching the light, then falling, a soft splash, against fabric. Dark liquid against a darker suit. Silence followed. Immediate, heavy. Adia froze. Her breath caught in her throat. Oh! The tray tilted slightly in her other hand, but she caught it. Barely. Oh my God, Her voice stumbled. I'm so sorry. Too fast, too automatic. She stepped forward instinctively, as if she could fix it, but she didn't get the chance. They moved before she could take another breath. 2 men, one on each side, hands firm, precise, grabbing her arms, tight enough to stop movement. Not rough, but not gentle either. Controlled force. Adia gasped slightly. Wait. No, I didn't. Her words tangled. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Please. Her voice rose slightly. Not loud, but urgent. The tray slipped from her hand, clattered onto the floor. Nobody moved to pick it up, because all attention had shifted. To her, to him, to what would happen next. Tion hadn't moved. Not immediately. He looked down first, at his suit, the stain spreading slowly. Then, he lifted his gaze and looked at her, not quickly, not sharply, slowly, like he was taking his time to understand something. Adia felt it. That look, not anger, something else, something colder. Sir, I'm really sorry, she said again, breath uneven. Her voice shook now. Not from fear alone, but from everything already sitting inside her. I didn't mean to. I swear. Apologize, properly. His voice cut through everything, low, calm, but final. Adia blinked. I said I'm sorry. Properly. Same tone. No change. The guards didn't loosen their grip. Didn't move. The entire restaurant held its breath. Adia swallowed, her chest rising and falling faster now. I'm sorry, sir, she said again, slower this time, trying to steady herself. I didn't mean to spill it. It was an accident. Apologize properly. Again, no explanation, no variation, just repetition. Adia's brows pulled together slightly, confusion mixing with frustration. What do you mean, properly? She asked, voice shaking. No answer, just his eyes on her, waiting, expecting something she didn't understand. I said, I'm sorry, she repeated, her tone shifting slightly now. Not as soft, not as controlled. I didn't mean to. Properly. The word landed heavier this time, because now, it wasn't just a request, it was pressure. The guard's grip tightened just slightly, not enough to hurt, but enough to remind her she wasn't free to move. Her breathing changed. Shorter, sharper. Her heart started pounding, not just from the situation, but from something deeper rising inside her, something she had been holding in all day, all week, all year. She started, stopped, her voice caught. I don't understand what you want from me, she said again, quieter now, but there was something underneath it, something building. Apologize properly. Again, same words, same tone, no explanation, no change. And that's when the room shifted again, because this wasn't about the spill anymore. This was something else, something tightening, something pushing. Adia's hands curled slightly, her fingers pressing against her own palms. Her jaw tightened, her eyes flickered, just for a second, not with fear, but with something closer to breaking. The pressure in the room became unbearable, and everyone felt it, because they knew something was about to happen. The room didn't move, it didn't breathe, it just held, every eye fixed, every sound swallowed. Adia could feel it, not just the hands gripping her arms, but the weight of everyone watching, waiting. Her chest rose sharply, then again. Her breathing wasn't steady anymore. Too fast, too shallow. I said I'm sorry, she repeated, softer now, not because she meant it less, but because something inside her was shifting, something fragile. Her eyes dropped for a second, not in submission, but in thought, trying to understand, trying to adjust, trying to fix it, but nothing made sense. What did he want? She had apologized more than once. She had explained. She had acknowledged the mistake. So why? Why did it feel like it wasn't enough? Her mind started racing now. Not clearly, not logically, just fast, like too many thoughts trying to push through at once. Say it better. Say it slower. Say it again. Her lips parted slightly. I'm really... Apologize properly. Again, the same words. No change. And something inside her tightened. Not physically, deeper. That quiet weight she had been carrying all day, all week. It shifted, moved, pressed upward. Her shoulders tensed. Her fingers curled tighter. I don't... She stopped again. Her voice wasn't steady anymore. I don't know what you want me to say, she admitted. There it was. Honest. Raw. Not polished. Not careful. Just real. But his expression didn't change. Not even slightly. Still calm. Still controlled. Still distant. Apologize properly. Again. And that's when it stopped being about the words. Because now, it felt like something else. Like pressure. Like being pushed into a space she didn't understand. Her heart pounded harder. Her chest felt tight. Her thoughts blurred together. The restaurant faded slightly around her. Voices distant. Faces unclear. All she could feel was this moment. This demand. This expectation she couldn't meet. I said, I'm sorry, she repeated again. But now, there was something different in her voice. Less control, less patience, and something else, rising underneath. I didn't mean to spill it, she added, her words faster now. I wasn't even supposed to be behind you. I was going to another table, and they moved, and She stopped herself, because explaining wasn't helping. Nothing was helping. Apologize properly. Again, that word, properly, it hit differently now, like it carried something more, like it wasn't about the apology at all, but about control. Her jaw tightened, her breathing grew sharper, and the quiet pressure inside her started to crack. She swallowed hard, but it didn't go away. It only grew, because for the first time in a long time, she felt cornered, not physically, but emotionally, like everything she had been holding in was being forced to the surface, and she didn't have the strength to hold it down anymore. Something changed in her eyes. It was subtle, so subtle most people wouldn't notice. But it was there, that quiet restraint she had been holding onto. It slipped, just a little. I already apologized, she said again. But this time, her voice didn't soften. It didn't adjust. It held, firm, still shaky, but firm. The guards noticed it. Not in her words, but in her posture. A slight shift, less compliance, more resistance. Apologize properly. Again, and this time, it landed differently. Because now, it wasn't just pressure. It was repetition, relentless, unchanging. Her chest rose sharply. Her lips parted, closed, opened again. She stopped, because something inside her had reached its limit. That quiet exhaustion, that heavy numbness, that constant weight she carried every single day. It all pushed forward at once. Her thoughts blurred, not organized, not careful, just raw. Her hands clenched slightly. Her voice trembled, but not from fear anymore, from something else. I said I'm sorry, she repeated again, but now it sounded different, not like an apology, like a statement, like she was trying to hold on to the last bit of control she had. I don't know what you want from me, she added, and there it was again. That truth, that confusion, that frustration, but still, he didn't respond, not with explanation, not with change, just apologize properly, again. And that was it. That was the moment. The exact point where everything shifted. Because something inside Adia finally broke. Not loudly, not immediately, but completely. Her breathing stopped for a second. Just one. Then came back. Sharper. Her eyes lifted. Not carefully this time. Directly, meeting his, and for the first time, there was no attempt to fix anything. No attempt to adjust. No attempt to please. Just truth. Raw. Unfiltered. Dangerous. Because it wasn't controlled anymore. Well, and everyone in that room felt it. Even before she spoke, they felt it. That shift, that moment when something quiet becomes something else entirely. Because what was about to happen next wasn't just a reaction, it was everything she had been holding in. Finally coming out. I said it the first time, she continued, her words coming quicker now. I said it again, and again. Her voice started to rise. And you just keep saying the same thing like, I didn't say anything at all. Her chest tightened. Her eyes burned slightly. But no tears fell. Because this wasn't sadness. This was something else. I'm standing here, she went on, her voice breaking slightly now, trying to fix something I didn't even mean to do. She stopped, not because she was done, but because something inside her surged forward all at once. Everything she had been holding in. All day, all week, all year. It didn't stay contained anymore. It moved, up, out. Her head shook slightly. I don't even... She started, stopped. Her breath hitched, then came back. Stronger and louder. This time, it broke through the entire room. Sharp, raw, not controlled. Every conversation stopped instantly. Forks froze mid-air. Chairs stilled. Even the guards, for a second, paused. What else do you want from me? She shouted, her voice shaking but strong. Tell me, what exactly do you want me to do? Her chest rose rapidly now. Her body no longer still. She pulled slightly against their grip, not to escape, but because the words needed space. Should the first kneel? She demanded, her voice rising higher. Is that what you want? No answer. So she kept going. Because now, she wasn't asking anymore. She was releasing. Should I kiss your feet? The words hit harder than anything else she had said. The room shifted. People looked at each other, uncertain, because this had gone too far, way too far. But Adia didn't stop, because she couldn't. Her eyes locked onto his, not carefully, directly. You're not God. Her voice cut through the silence again. Clear, not trembling now, certain. You're just a man, she added, her tone dropping slightly but still sharp, same as everyone else sitting in this room. No hesitation, no fear. And that was what shocked them the most. Not the words, but the absence of fear behind them, because everyone else felt it. That invisible pressure, that quiet control. But she didn't, or maybe she just didn't care anymore. Her breathing slowed slightly now, not because she calmed down, but because she had already crossed the line. There was no going back. Forget this job, she said suddenly, her voice steadier now, not loud, but final. I quit. The words landed differently, not emotional, decisive, like she had been waiting to say them. Then she looked at him again, one last time, and this time there was something else in her expression. Not anger, not fear, just emptiness. Yeah, she added quietly. You too. A pause, short, then, I'm done. No explanation, no apology, no hesitation, just an ending. The guards looked at Cheon, waiting, because this was the moment, the consequence, the reaction, but nothing came, not immediately, and that silence felt heavier than anything she had said. Because now everyone was waiting to see what a man like him would do. When someone finally spoke to him without fear, for a moment, no one moved. Not the customers, not the staff, not even the guards holding her. It was like the entire room had paused, trying to catch up to what just happened. A woman, a waitress, had just spoken like that. To him, you could see it on their faces: confusion, disbelief. Some people glanced at each other, quickly, like they were checking if they heard the same thing. Others looked down immediately. Because eye contact felt dangerous now, the manager, who had been standing near the back, took a small step backward, then another, not leaving, but creating distance, because if something happened next, he didn't want to be anywhere near it. A fork slipped from someone's hand. The sound, small, but sharp, cut through the silence. No one reacted to it, because all attention remained fixed on one point. Tam, and the woman in front of him. Adia didn't move. Her arms were still held, but her posture had changed. She wasn't trying to pull away anymore. She wasn't struggling. She was just standing, like whatever needed to be said had already been said. Her breathing slowed, not calm, just settled, because there was nothing left to push out. Everything had already come out. Across the room, a quiet whisper started. "She's done for." Another voice, lower. Why would she say that? Someone else shook their head slightly. She doesn't know who she's talking to. But none of those voices reached her. Or maybe they did, and she just didn't care enough to respond, because consequences only matter when you're planning to stay, and she wasn't. That truth sat quietly behind her eyes, unspoken, but present. The guards shifted slightly again, not tightening, not releasing, just waiting, because even they didn't act without direction, and direction only came from him. All eyes turned back to Tion, waiting for the reaction, the correction, the punishment, because that's what made sense. That's what always happened. Control responded, power corrected, and no one spoke to him like that without consequence. Well, that's what they believed. Adia met his gaze again, not by accident, not briefly, fully. There was no hesitation in it, no second thought, just direct. Whatever fear had existed before, it wasn't there anymore, not hidden, not controlled, gone, and that, more than anything she said, was what made the moment heavier, because fear was expected. Fear kept things in place. Fear maintained order, but without it, things became unpredictable. And Adia, in that moment, was exactly that, unpredictable. Her expression didn't shift. No regret, no panic, no attempt to take anything back, because there was nothing to take back. She meant every word. And more than that, she accepted whatever came after, not bravely, not dramatically, just plainly, like someone who had already made peace with the outcome. The guards looked between them, waiting, still waiting. The tension in the room stretched further, longer than anyone expected, because the reaction was taking too long. Tion hadn't spoken, hadn't moved, not even slightly. His eyes stayed on her, not angry, not visibly, just focused, like he was trying to understand something that didn't fit, because everything about this moment broke pattern. She didn't plead, she didn't apologize again, she didn't soften, and most importantly, she didn't want anything. That part stood out, because, in his experience, everyone wanted something, always. But her, there was nothing in her expression that asked, nothing that suggested expectation, nothing that hinted at calculation, just emptiness and something else, something he hadn't seen in a long time. Truth, unfiltered, uncontrolled, real. That made him pause, not outwardly, but internally, because this was unfamiliar. The silence stretched again, then, finally, he moved, just slightly, his hand lifted from the table. A small motion, but it shifted everything, because now, something was about to happen, and no one in that room knew what it would be. The movement of his hand was small, but it carried weight. The guards noticed it immediately, not because he signaled anything clearly, but because they were trained to read what wasn't said. They loosened their grip, just slightly, not releasing her yet, waiting. For confirmation, Tian didn't look at them. His eyes stayed on Adia, steady, focused, but not in the way everyone expected. There was no visible anger, no irritation, no immediate reaction to her words, and that confused the room more than anything else, because this wasn't how it was supposed to go. Someone disrespects power. Power responds immediately, but he didn't. Instead, he watched her, not casually, not dismissively, carefully, like he was trying to understand something that didn't match what he already believed. Her posture hadn't changed. Her breathing had settled. Her eyes, still steady, still empty in a way that didn't ask for anything. That part stayed with him, because it didn't align with what he knew. People reacted. People adjusted. People tried to recover when they crossed a line. She didn't. She stood there, as if the outcome didn't matter, as if she had already accepted it. That wasn't confidence. That wasn't boldness. That was something else, something quieter, something heavier, and for the first time, he didn't immediately assign meaning to it. He didn't categorize her, didn't label the moment. He just looked, trying to read something that wasn't obvious. The room held its breath again, because now, this silence wasn't tension. It was uncertainty. People didn't know what to expect anymore, and that made it worse. The manager stayed frozen where he was. The staff avoided looking directly, but couldn't look away completely either, because whatever happened next was going to matter. Cheon shifted slightly in his seat, not abruptly, just enough to break the stillness. His fingers adjusted against the table, then stilled again, and finally, he spoke, but not loudly, not sharply, just enough to be heard. "What is your final wish?" The words landed softly, but they hit harder than anything else in the room, because no one expected them. Not the guards, not the staff, not even Adia. Adia blinked, once, not out of confusion alone, but because the question didn't make sense. Not in this moment, not in this situation. Her brows pulled together slightly. "What?" she asked quietly, not challenging, just unsure. Tian didn't repeat himself immediately. He held her gaze, then said it again. "What is your final wish?" Same tone, calm, unrushed, like he was asking something ordinary. But nothing about this was ordinary. The guards exchanged a quick glance. The manager shifted again, in the distance. Someone at a nearby table leaned slightly forward, trying to hear better, because, now, everyone was trying to understand what this meant. Adia's lips parted, closed. Her mind didn't rush this time, didn't scramble, because the answer was already there. It had been there before she even came to work, before the spill, before him. It didn't change. "I want to send my money to my mom," she said, her voice steady, not emotional, not dramatic, just clear. "For my kids." That was it. No explanation, no added words, no attempt to soften it or make it sound better. Just truth. And that stood out more than anything else she had said before, because there was no hesitation, no calculation, no adjustment to fit the moment. It was the same answer she would have given in any situation. Tian didn't respond immediately, but something shifted behind his eyes, not visibly, not in a way others could clearly see, but internally. Something registered, because again, it didn't match expectation. She didn't ask for help, didn't ask for forgiveness, didn't ask for anything for herself. Only that, only them. How much? He asked, direct, simple. Adia answered without pause. She had already calculated it, already prepared it. The number came out steady. Cheon reached into his jacket, pulled out his phone. No hesitation, no follow-up questions, no doubt. His fingers moved quickly across the screen. Efficient, precise, the kind of movement that came from habit, from control. Within seconds, it was done. He looked back at her. It sent no emphasis, no display, just a statement. The room shifted again. This time, Not from tension, from shock. Because this wasn't expected at all. A few quiet murmurs spread. He actually... Just like that. The manager stared, not moving. The guards relaxed slightly, uncertain now, because the situation had changed completely. And Adia? She didn't react immediately. Not with gratitude, not with relief. She just stood there, processing not the money, not the act, but the shift, because something that should have escalated didn't. Instead, it ended just like that. Chian leaned back slightly, his posture returning to what it was before, controlled, untouched. Then, he said one more thing, let her go. No hesitation, no second thought. The guards released her, completely this time. Adia's arms dropped to her sides, free, but she didn't move right away. Not because she was afraid, but because something about the moment felt incomplete, like it had shifted too quickly, too unexpectedly. She looked at him, still trying to understand, still trying to place what just happened, but he didn't explain, didn't clarify, didn't look for a reaction, because to him, the moment was already over. And, just like that, the line she crossed, the consequence everyone expected, never came. For a few seconds, no one reacted. Not because nothing happened, but because too much had just happened at once. The tension that had filled the room didn't snap, it didn't explode, it just dropped abruptly, leaving something unfamiliar behind. Confusion, the kind that makes people hesitate, that makes them look around, as if someone else might explain it. But no one did, because no one understood it. The manager blinked repeatedly, his posture still stiff, but his expression had changed. Not fear now, uncertainty, like the situation had moved beyond anything he could anticipate. A customer leaned closer to another. That's it? They whispered. The other shook their head slowly. No way. A quiet murmur spread, low, contained, but present, because people needed to react somehow, even if they didn't have the right words for it. The guards stepped back fully now, not just releasing Adia, but creating space, as if the situation no longer required their presence, which, in itself, was unusual, because moments like that didn't just end, they escalated, they left marks, they created consequences. But this ended clean, too clean. Adia flexed her fingers slightly. Her arms still felt the pressure of their grip. Even though it was gone, she didn't look at them, didn't acknowledge the release. Her attention stayed forward, on him, because that part still didn't make sense. Everything about this moment should have gone differently, and yet it didn't. She searched his expression briefly, not for emotion, just something, anything that explained what just happened. But there was nothing, no satisfaction, no irritation, no visible reaction at all. Just the same calm, the same control, like the moment had passed through him, without leaving anything behind. That made it harder to understand, because at least anger made sense. This didn't. Her chest rose slowly, then settled, because whatever explanation she was looking for wasn't going to come from him. Not now, maybe not ever. Around her, the restaurant slowly started to breathe again. Not fully, not normally, but enough. A glass shifted, a chair moved, someone cleared their throat softly, small sounds returning, carefully, like people were testing if it was safe to continue. But even then, the energy hadn't fully reset. It lingered, because something had changed, not visibly, but deeply, and everyone felt it. Even if they couldn't explain why. Well, that moment, the one that should have broken her, didn't, and that left something behind, something quiet, but undeniable. Adia turned, not abruptly, not dramatically, just slowly, like the moment had already ended for her, like there was nothing left to stay for. Her steps were steady, not rushed, not hesitant, just forward. She didn't look back, didn't say anything else, didn't acknowledge the room, or the people still watching her, because none of that mattered anymore. Not the job, not the moment, not even him. All of it had already been decided before she walked in, before the spill, before any of this happened. This was just the last step, the final part of something she had already accepted. Her fingers brushed lightly against her pocket, where her phone rested. The money, already sent, that part was done. That responsibility, fulfilled, which meant there was nothing left tying her here. She reached the door, pushed it open, stepped outside, and disappeared from the room. Just like that. No sound, no final glance. Just gone. Inside, the silence stretched again, but this time, it wasn't focused on her. It shifted back to him, because even though she had left, something about the moment hadn't. Tion didn't move immediately. His posture remained the same, controlled, still, but his eyes remained on the space where she had been, not out of curiosity alone, something else, something subtle, because her reaction, or lack of one, didn't fit. Most people would have stayed, said something, reacted to what just happened. Relief, gratitude, confusion, something, but she didn't. She walked away like none of it mattered, like it was already over, before it even began. That didn't align, and that stayed with him, because patterns mattered, and she didn't follow any. His fingers tapped lightly once against the table, then stilled, a small movement, but deliberate. He looked down briefly, then back up, toward the door. Something in his chest tightened slightly, not emotion, instinct. The kind that doesn't explain itself, just signals something wasn't right. Not with the situation, not with the outcome, with her. That realization didn't come loudly. It settled, quiet, but certain. He stood up. The movement immediate, not rushed, but decisive. The chair shifted back softly. The room noticed. Of course it did, because everything he did was noticed. The guard straightened slightly. One stepped forward. Sir? Tion didn't look at him. I'll join you later. Simple, final, no explanation. The guard hesitated for half a second, then nodded, because questions weren't part of their role. Tion adjusted his jacket slightly, then turned, walking toward the exit. Same controlled steps, same steady pace, but now there was direction behind it. Not routine, not habit, choice, because something about her, that moment, that absence of reaction, didn't sit right. And for the first time in a long time, he followed something he couldn't fully explain. Outside, the air felt different, quieter, real, and somewhere ahead. Walking away from everything was Adia, unaware that, for the first time, someone wasn't letting her disappear. The night air outside felt different, cooler, quieter, real in a way the restaurant wasn't. Tion stepped out, the door closing softly behind him. For a second, he didn't move, not because he didn't know where to go, but because something inside him was trying to make sense of what he was doing. This wasn't routine. He didn't follow people. He didn't second-guess decisions after they were made. He didn't leave situations unfinished. But this didn't feel finished, not in the way it should. His gaze moved forward. The street stretched out under dim lighting. People passed by. Cars moved. Everything normal. Except her. She was already ahead. Walking, not fast, not slow, just steady, like she wasn't heading anywhere in particular, but also not wandering. There was direction in it. That stood out, because most people, after something like that, would pause, look back, react. She didn't. She kept moving, like none of it mattered. That didn't align. Tion's jaw tightened slightly, not out of frustration, but focus. because instinct, something he trusted more than explanation, was telling him something wasn't right. He started walking, not rushing, not calling out, just following, keeping distance, observing. The space between them remained intentional. He wasn't trying to catch up. He was trying to understand. She didn't look back. Not once. Didn't hesitate. Didn't slow down. Her steps remained the same. Consistent. Uninterrupted. That kind of movement. It meant something. Not panic. Not distraction. Decision. And that confirmed it. This wasn't random. Whatever she was doing, it was planned. That realization settled in quietly, heavy, because now, it wasn't just curiosity, it was concern, not emotional, but instinctive, the kind that doesn't ask permission, just moves. He reached his car, opened the door, sat inside, started the engine. His eyes never left her, not directly, but enough to track her movement. She turned down a quieter street, less light, fewer people. He waited a second, then pulled forward slowly, keeping distance, not close enough to be noticed, but not far enough to lose her. The city noise faded gradually, replaced by something quieter, more isolated, and still. She didn't stop, didn't check behind her, didn't hesitate. That same steady pace, that same quiet certainty. Something was wrong, and now, he was sure of it. Adia's fingers tightened slightly around her phone, not enough to shake, just enough to feel it. Ground herself. The street had changed. Less noise, less movement. The kind of quiet that didn't ask questions. That suited her, because everything inside her had already settled, not peacefully, just finally. She slowed slightly, not stopping, just adjusting. Her thumb hovered over the screen, paused, then pressed. The call rang, once, twice. She kept walking, her eyes forward, her breathing steady. Then, a voice answered. Hello? Adia didn't respond immediately, not because she didn't want to, but because hearing that voice made something shift, not enough to break her, but enough to be felt. Mama, she said finally, soft, different from how she sounded before, not stronger, just familiar. There was a pause on the other end. Adia, are you okay? She swallowed, her lips parted, closed. Yeah, she said quietly. It wasn't true, but it was enough. I sent it. Simple, straight, no build-up, no explanation. Another pause, longer this time. You sent what? Her mother asked. Confusion in her voice. All of it, Adia replied. Her steps didn't stop, didn't slow, just continued forward. For the kids, silence again, heavier now. Adia, why would you just take care of them? She said, cutting in gently. Not harsh, but firm enough to stop the question. Her voice stayed low, controlled, but underneath it, there was something else, something close to the surface. Her mother exhaled on the other end. What's going on? She asked, softer now. Concern, real, immediate. Adia didn't answer that, not directly, because explaining would take too much, and she didn't have the energy for it anymore. I just wanted to make sure. She said slowly, her words measured. They're okay. They are, her mother replied quickly. They're fine, but... Adia, talk to me. Adia stopped walking, just for a second. Her eyes lowered slightly. Her grip on the phone tightened again. Tell them I love them. The words came out quieter this time. Not breaking, but close. On the other end, silence. Then, Adia, but she didn't let her continue. Just, tell them, she repeated, softer now, almost a whisper. Then, she pulled the phone away, looked at the screen, and ended the call. No goodbye, no explanation, just silence. The world around her stayed quiet, still, unchanged. Behind her, far enough to not be seen, Tion's grip on the steering wheel tightened slightly, not from tension alone, but from understanding, because now it was clear. This wasn't just a walk. This wasn't just distance. This was an ending. Well, and for the first time, he knew exactly what he was following. Adia didn't stand there long after the call ended, just enough to let the silence settle. Her hand lowered slowly, the phone still in her grip. Screen dimming, then going dark. She looked ahead. The road stretched forward. But something about it had changed, not visibly, but in meaning, because now there was no interruption left, no responsibility waiting, no unfinished task pulling her back. Everything she needed to do was done. That thought didn't come with relief. It didn't bring comfort. It just cleared space. She took a step forward, then another. The pavement shifted beneath her feet, from concrete to something rougher, less maintained, less traveled. The streetlights grew fewer. The glow behind her faded slowly, and ahead, darkness settled. Not heavy, not threatening, just quiet. The kind of quiet that didn't ask questions, that didn't interrupt thoughts, that didn't require explanation. That suited her. Her steps didn't change, still steady, still certain, as if she had walked this path before, even if she hadn't. Branches lined the sides now, tall, still. The city behind her felt distant, muted, like it no longer belonged to her. She didn't look back, not once, because there was nothing behind her anymore, not in the way that mattered. Her fingers relaxed slightly around the phone. Her shoulders lowered just a little. Not from ease, but from release, because the weight she carried earlier, the one tied to responsibility, was gone, and in its place, there was only one thing left: finality. The path narrowed, the ground softened beneath her steps. Dirt, now, uneven, but she didn't slow, didn't hesitate. Her breathing remained steady, her expression unchanged. No panic, no rush, just forward. Further in, deeper into the quiet. And with every step, the distance between her and everything else grew, not just physically, but completely. Cheon slowed the car. The road had shifted. Less light, less movement, less visibility. He couldn't follow directly anymore, not without being noticed. He pulled over, the engine idling softly for a second, before he turned it off. Silence, immediate, different from before. He stepped out, closed the door carefully. His eyes scanned ahead. The path, narrow now, partially hidden by trees, and her, still visible. For a moment, just ahead, walking deeper. Then, she turned, not back, but off the path, into the woods, and just like that, she was gone. Cheon stopped. Not because he chose to, but because there was nothing to track anymore. No movement, no sound, just stillness. His jaw tightened slightly, not in frustration, but focus, because now the situation had changed. He stepped forward, carefully, listening, not rushing, because rushing would make him miss something. And right now, every detail mattered. The ground shifted under his shoes, softer, uneven. Branches brushed lightly as he moved. The air felt different here, thicker, quieter. His eyes adjusted slowly, trying to catch movement, anything. But there was nothing, no footsteps, no voice, no sign of her. That silence, it wasn't normal. Not for someone who had just walked in. There should have been something, a sound, a shift, but there wasn't. And that made his chest tighten. Because now, it wasn't just instinct, it was urgency. He moved faster, not running, but no longer slow, scanning, listening. Then, something, faint, a sound, not clear, not loud, but there, a struggle, subtle, out of place. Cheon stopped. His head turned slightly, trying to locate it. Then, it came again, just enough to confirm it wasn't imagined. And in that moment, Everything aligned. The walk, the call, the silence, all of it. His body reacted before thought. He moved. Quick, now, direct, toward the sound. Branches shifted as he pushed through. The ground uneven beneath him. His breathing changed. Not from effort, but from what he already knew he would find, because there was no doubt left, no uncertainty, only one possibility. Well, and whatever he was about to see was going to change everything. The sound led him deeper, not loud, but wrong, out of place in a space that had been completely still just seconds before. Cheon moved faster now. Branches brushed against his arms, the ground uneven, but he didn't slow, because by now he wasn't guessing anymore. He knew. His eyes scanned ahead, searching for movement, anything. Then he saw it. At first, it didn't register clearly, just a shape, something vertical, something still. Then his vision adjusted, and everything snapped into focus. Her, Adia, the rope above, her body suspended. For a fraction of a second, everything stopped. Not the world, him, because his mind needed that moment to process what he was seeing. Then it hit, fast, immediate, real. He moved, no hesitation, no calculation, just action. Hey, no. His voice broke through the silence, louder than anything before, raw. Stay with me. He reached her, hands already moving, one arm supporting her weight, lifting, trying to reduce the strain, the other working quickly, pulling at the rope. His fingers weren't as steady as before, not like in the restaurant, not controlled, not precise, because this was different. This wasn't something he could observe. This wasn't something he could analyze. This needed to be stopped. Now, stay with me, he said again, closer now, his voice lower but urgent. You're okay. You're okay. She wasn't responding. Her body felt light, too light. That registered instantly. His grip tightened. He shifted his stance, lifting more, trying to take pressure off. His eyes moved quickly, looking for anything that could help. Then, the knot. He saw it. His hand moved to it immediately, pulling, trying to loosen it, but it didn't give easily. His breathing changed, faster now, not controlled, not measured, because time wasn't something he had. Come on, he muttered under his breath. Come on. His fingers worked harder, forcing, ignoring the resistance. Then it shifted, slightly, enough. He pulled again, harder, and this time it gave. The rope loosened, and her weight dropped, fully, into his arms. He caught her, barely, but enough. Her body collapsed against him, unresponsive, too still. His grip tightened instinctively, not careful now, just holding, keeping her from hitting the ground. Hey, look at me, he said quickly, his voice unsteady now. Stay with me. No response. Her head tilted slightly. No resistance. That made his chest tighten. Something sharp, immediate. He lowered her carefully, kneeling with her, one hand supporting her back, the other moving to her face. Hey, he said again, softer now, but urgent. Can you hear me? Nothing. His eyes moved quickly, checking, looking, searching for signs, anything. His hand hovered near her neck, then pressed lightly, feeling, waiting. A second passed, then something, faint, but there, a pulse, weak, but present. He exhaled sharply, not relief, not yet, just confirmation. She's still here, he muttered under his breath. His other hand moved, adjusting her position, keeping her airway clear. Everything he did now was instinct, not something he thought through, just knew. Stay with me, he repeated again, quieter now. You're not going anywhere. You hear me? His voice didn't carry authority anymore, not control. Something else, something closer to urgency. to fear, because for the first time, this wasn't a situation he could manage with distance. This was immediate, unpredictable, and slipping. He reached for his phone. Faster this time, not precise. Just quick, dialing, waiting. His eyes never left her. "Yeah," he said when the line connected, his voice tight. "I need emergency. Now." He gave the location quickly, clear, direct, then ended the call. His hand returned to her, not letting space exist between them, because space felt dangerous now. "Hey," he said again, quieter, almost under his breath. "Stay with me." Her chest moved slightly, small, but enough, and he held there, steadying her, waiting, because now, this moment wasn't about control. It wasn't about power. It wasn't about anything he understood. It was just life, and whether it stayed. And in that space, holding someone who had already decided to leave, John Varelli felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Not clearly, not fully, but enough to recognize it. He didn't want her to disappear. The hospital room was quiet, not the peaceful kind, the kind that carried weight. Machines hummed softly in the background, a steady rhythm, consistent, unlike everything that had led to this moment. Adia lay still, eyes closed, her breathing slow, measured, not natural, assisted. Time passed differently in that room. Minutes stretched, voices stayed low, footsteps softened, because everything inside that space felt fragile. Outside, it wasn't as quiet. Questions moved faster than answers. People talked, staff exchanged looks, and somewhere in between, a version of the story had already started forming, one that didn't include the full truth. A man with power. A woman found in the woods. A public confrontation earlier that night. It didn't take much for assumptions to connect, and those assumptions began to spread. He was the last one seen with her. "You don't think..." It doesn't look good. The words stayed low, but they carried, and eventually, they reached him. Cheon stood outside the room, not pacing, not restless, just still, his expression unreadable, but his presence noticeable, because even here, in a place where control didn't matter the same way, he carried it. A nurse stepped out briefly, paused, then spoke carefully. "She's stable," she said. "Simple, professional." Cheon gave a small nod. No questions, because right now, that was enough. Time passed again. Then, movement inside the room. Subtle, but enough. Adia's fingers shifted slightly. Her breathing changed. Her eyes opened slowly, not fully aware yet, but present. A nurse stepped closer. "Adia," she said gently. A pause, then a faint response. "Yeah." Her voice was dry, low, but there. The nurse smiled slightly. "You're okay. You're safe." Safe. That word settled, but didn't fully land, because Adia wasn't thinking about safety. Not yet. Her eyes moved slightly, taking in the room, the space, the quiet, and then the door, where he stood. Their eyes met briefly, not long. But enough, and in that moment, there was recognition, not of him, of what had happened. The memory didn't hit all at once. It came in pieces. The restaurant, the tension, the walk, then the woods. Her chest tightened slightly. The nurse noticed. "You don't have to talk right now," she said softly. But before she could say anything else, a voice came from the hallway. "We need to ask a few questions." Two officers stepped closer, not aggressive, but direct. They looked at Sion briefly, then at Adia. "Miss," one of them said. "We just need to clarify what happened tonight." A pause. Adia didn't respond immediately. Her eyes shifted slightly. Toward Qian again, then back. "He didn't do anything," she said. Her voice wasn't strong, but it was clear. The officers exchanged a glance. "We're just trying to understand." "He didn't do anything," she repeated, same tone. No hesitation, no uncertainty, just truth. And that ended the question before it could grow, because there was nothing to argue against, not when it came from her. The officers nodded slightly, stepped back, and just like that, the assumption ended. Before it could become something else, time passed again. Doctors came in, spoke quietly, used words that described what couldn't be seen directly: exhaustion, trauma, a state that needed more than physical care. And that decision was made gently, not forced, but necessary. "She'll need some time," one of them said. Time, space, support, because healing wasn't immediate, and for Adia, it hadn't even started yet. The room settled again, but this time, it wasn't just quiet. It was the beginning of something slower, something uncertain, something that didn't have a clear outcome. The facility was different, less noise, less urgency. Everything moved slower, deliberate, controlled in a different way. Days didn't rush, they stretched, giving space for things people usually avoided. Adia sat by the window, not looking outside, just facing it. Her hands rested in her lap. Still, she had been there long enough to understand the routine. When meals came, when sessions happened, when silence settled. But understanding it didn't mean accepting it, because even here, she kept her distance. Not physically, emotionally. She spoke when necessary, answered questions, but nothing more. No extra words, no openness, just enough. The door opened softly. She didn't turn, didn't need to. She already knew. "You keep coming," she said quietly, not accusing, just stating it. Qian stepped in, same posture, same calm presence. "I do." A pause. He didn't move closer immediately, gave space, because now he understood something he didn't before. Presence wasn't taken. It was allowed. Why? She asked, her voice steady, but there was something underneath it, not curiosity. Not yet. Something closer to resistance. Qian considered the question, not quickly, not with a prepared answer. Then, "I don't know," he said, honest, simple. She exhaled lightly, not convinced. "You always know," she replied. A small pause. Then, "People like you. You always have a reason." There it was. That distance, that line she kept between them. Qian didn't challenge it, didn't correct her, because he understood where it came from, and pushing against it wouldn't change anything. So instead, he stayed, not speaking, not forcing conversation, just present. And that was new for both of them. Days passed, then more, and still, he showed up, not every hour, not every moment, but consistently, without expectation, without demand. Sometimes they spoke, short exchanges, nothing deep, nothing personal, but enough to fill the silence. Other times, they didn't, and that was fine too, because slowly, something shifted. Not dramatically, not noticeably to others, but subtly, the space between them became less rigid, not open, but less closed. Adia still didn't trust him. That part hadn't changed, not fully, because trust wasn't something she gave easily anymore. Not after everything, not after what life had shown her, but she stopped pushing him away. And that was the first step, not toward love, not toward anything defined, just toward something that didn't have a name yet. Well, and sometimes that's how it starts. Not with feeling, not with intention, but with presence, consistent, unforced, real, Because pain doesn't always show itself. It doesn't always look like struggle. Sometimes it looks like silence, like distance, like someone walking away without looking back. And strong people, the ones who carry the most, don't always ask for help. They just stop quietly until something or someone interrupts that ending, not by force, but by staying. And sometimes that's enough to begin again. If this story touched you, even just a little, take a second, like the video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe, because stories like this, they matter more than we think. They matter more than we think.
Hope you enjoyed the story, and remember to subscribe. Bye.